part of the Shareable Podcast Network. Learn more at shareable.fm.
Okay, welcome to a new episode of the Heroic Council. Today, my featured guest is Parshell Tashi. Make sure to tune in every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we get together to talk and work and answer your questions. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform, on YouTube, or join our Facebook group. All of that can be found at superheroinstitute.org/heroic, and all links to the show will be in our notes. Let's get started. So today we're going to talk to Parshell, who filmed and edited 25 videos in less than 4 hours, and she's going to discuss with us ways on not getting stuck. So Parshell, can you tell me about how you were able to accomplish this?
Yeah, well, to give some context, I put together my first online course. And of course, a lot of online courses require video. And so me as a video professional myself, as much as I love it, I just don't want to be stuck with a ton of editing because it's like probably the most time consuming part of video, right? So my intention was to figure out how I could do the most with the least amount of effort possible, right? So I essentially was able to, in 2 days, I allocated 2 hours to both of these days and was able to knock out all the filming and the editing in those 2 hour blocks. So that's kind of a high level overview of what I did, and we'll clearly go deeper into sort of what I actually did and how I did it. So, but yeah, that's just kind of gives from doing an online course and knew I didn't want to get stuck with a whole bunch of editing. So I figured out a way somehow to do it and knock it all out with like transitions, cut to my screen, cut to other shots, sound effects, fade in, fade out, everything.
So what was your inspiration to get to this point where you could edit like this? Like what pushed you in that direction to begin with?
I think I'm really fascinated by speed when it comes to video. I remember when I was doing, more wedding work, the concept of like a same day edit was really intriguing. I got pretty close to that in some regards, but just the ability to have your videos turned around very quickly. Everybody wants that. You don't want it to be sitting and waiting. So my motivation really was how can I get this done as soon as possible? I also was up against a deadline because thankfully I had pre-sold, I think about 6 or 7 seats to my course before it was ready. Yeah. So that definitely put the pressure on to not necessarily like just let it just like sit and hang and just, I'll get to it. But I was like, I made a commitment to the people who showed up and wanted to learn this. And, that definitely motivated me more to get it done. You know what I mean? Not to let it just sit.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned speed in particular. What is it that you think, I guess, first of all, like, what is it that makes speed possible, particularly now, especially because, like, I'm assuming you're doing this as almost a one-man band, or I know you have a partner, so you're working with one other person to make this happen. I mean, I could think even 5 years ago, that might be really challenging getting these 25 videos up. So what's changed?
I think the technology has changed, and it's made it to where even you and me right now on this podcast episode, I mean, we're not using our built-in webcams to get this image, right? Our cameras are actually connected into our computers. And that's really that's really what makes all of it possible in terms of what I was able to do. Because otherwise, if I had to, have my camera on the tripod and then record, meaning I have to like actually physically hit the camera, hit the record button, or have someone else do it. And then once we're done recording, take all those videos out of the memory card and then put them into the computer. I mean, it's just like that in and of itself. We talk about time and speed, like that takes time,
Yeah.
So just by virtue of the fact that our cameras are connected to the computer, I don't have to even really touch the camera to hit record. I can hit a button on my computer. I start recording, and then once it's done, my computer asks me, where do you want to save this file? So that, starts this process of really speeding up just alone, the manual process alone of having to get your footage. Now it's available to you right on your computer to either go ahead and share on social media or embed onto your website or whatever. It's on your computer now. And then from there, I thought, well, if I have the footage on my computer, how can I record and edit at the same time was kind of like what I ended up doing. And there's a number of tools out there, kind of like what we're using now with Restream or Ecamm or StreamYard. All these other platforms that are really built for live streaming also have the ability to record. And so all of those features that come into the program that allow for videos to pop in and, lower thirds to show up and audio effects and sound effects and all that. You can really control all of that from your computer while you're recording your video content. So I it almost feels like I'm a DJ,
Yeah.
I'm like, got my playlist together. I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I think the most empowering aspect of it is to really train yourself. For those who are creative or looking to do more video, it's like you have to train yourself to think like an editor. Think ahead of time of what the shots are going to be, and you can be that much more efficient in how you capture. So that's how I did that.
I oftentimes when I'm editing something, especially when I'm editing a new type of project, because I'm sure you've worked with a lot of different kinds of output. And so this project's going to be end up being very different than this project. And I'm always particularly with editing, I'm always really fascinated to see how long something takes when you're first chewing into it and figuring out how to get this particular thing that you want to get done to work. And then after doing 5 of them, your productivity on those things skyrockets relatively quickly.
Oh yeah.
So when you started streaming in particular, what did that gradient look like to kind of go from I'm figuring this out, this is how I want things to look, to oh, we can bang these out really quickly?
Yeah, I honestly, it just was an idea and I just went with it just to see what would happen, and luckily ended up being successful with it. I was really blown away. I mean, I'm telling you, as many shoots and projects as I've done, I was on cloud 9 after doing this. I was like, holy crap, I don't have to, the edits are done. Everything is already, in a Dropbox folder. And at that point, like I said, my business partner was right there and started just putting the videos in Teachable. That's her thing, so it was, it just was something that came to mind, and it just sort of happened. But like you said, once you sort of know the flow, and you essentially have a template, if you will, then you can duplicate the template. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it probably took us maybe after 2 or 3 videos and kind of getting the hang of it, then it just was boom, we just knocked out the remaining. So I ended up getting enough content to cover the first course and a second course. So we just haven't released the second course, but yeah, I just totally banged these out, and just got it done. But like I said, simply because the editing could be done in that way, I know that going forward, I'm really motivated to do more, because I know that it's not going to take me a super long time. For those who are listening, when it comes to video editing, and Tim, you can attest to this, for every hour of raw footage that you've collected, it usually takes anywhere from 3 to 8 hours for that 1 hour to actually go through, scrub, edit, do all of the color, all those things. It can take such a long time. So to be able to do this, especially if you're a beginner, I think it's possible. We're all using Zoom. We're all familiar with some aspect of how to use video for ourselves right now. So why not take the next step? I say get a camera set up, or get a little webcam or whatever, have that hooked into your computer. And even if you don't, you can still record a course with your built-in webcam too, without having to do a whole bunch. So, that's essentially what I did. And I have some other components too that make it, to make it easier. But essentially, yeah, I think that being able to speed up that edit process has been like, I'm just excited just to do another one, honestly.
So if somebody is relatively new to producing video and they're looking to start publishing a lot of work relatively quickly and making as, like, let's say, as little impact on their time as possible, are there specific tools that you would recommend in particular?
Yes, I definitely recommend, and it really depends too on like the type of content they're producing and what have you. Because for example, if they're doing, like, let's say a new business owner is going to start to do like a show, like a video podcast or something. Those are really templated. They're really easy. They can follow the same format and structure. You go from an intro to a hook to your guest to maybe a sponsored part, and then you have your closeout and then your ending. Like typically you're going to follow those exact same structures. And if you're able to essentially create things in that format, you can do it and you can stay consistent. And if you're really smart about it, you can invite and involve the people who you need to be connected to in that podcast too, or whatever you're doing.
And I think that's a really important point, because it's not just like, oh, you have your editing process down. It's, oh, you have your like content organization down. So like you have a template for like how the content's actually going to flow in the video, because that will impact the editing later on when you're working on that too.
Exactly. I think that the more you can think ahead and really incorporate all the things you need to happen in your business. Some people just need more visibility online on their brand. Some people need to really boost up their marketing and sales, demonstrate what they know how to do. There's so many ways that video can be used, but if you're able to, again, think ahead and provide that structure of what needs to happen, I think that the editing part and when you go to film it will be a whole lot easier.
So how has this kind of production of video impacted your video, your business in particular? And how do you think other people should be framing it?
This has really impacted me, again, because it's just it's a lot easier to get the video content done. It's literally me going onto my computer, opening up a program and hitting record or going live. And just with that ease, I've been able to just share more content, go live more often. And as a result, there's more awareness out there. Like I mentioned just last week, we launched the course. Like I said, I had 6 people that had already signed up for that. And then afterwards, I had like another 5 or 6 sign up just from the content I was doing. So, just going live and just sharing things. So this has been really powerful. I mean, I don't have to go live. I could just record it and post it later or whatever. But just knowing that I don't have to do all those things is just, it really motivates me. I'm like, okay, well, I can actually do that. The rest of it is just my mindset and whatever other stuff comes up to mind about getting on camera. The technical stuff, since that's easier, it just motivates me more.
Yeah, because actually that's been something something in particular I've been wondering for myself when I'm working with certain kind of clients on certain kind of projects. Is, let's say hypothetically you're recording this piece live and you're editing it as you're going with the streaming tools that you have. What do you do when you feel like you trip up? You know what I mean? And you stumble over your words. Are you the kind of like, would you recommend them going back and cutting those pieces out? Would you recommend them like just keeping it in and moving forward with it? How do you frame that for yourself and your clients?
Yeah, typically what I do is I like to keep the camera rolling if I can. And as quickly as possible, just get them refocused. Let them know it's okay. All right, let's just keep it going. Pick up where you left off. And then from an editing standpoint, we can address it. So there were some, actually have like a whole thing of bloopers from my course too, because I totally messed up on, a lot of things that I was saying. But for me, there were some parts I just said, just keep rolling, I'll edit it later because it'll be a simple edit to do. If it was too much of a train wreck, then I said, all right, let's just start over. I would stop recording and then just give it a shot again from the top. So, those things, it's just, I feel like an intuition piece. It's like, well, how can I get this, how can I get this done? So that way, at the end of the day, it's understood, it's well communicated, and it still looks professional. So for me, it's just, we mess up, If we can keep the cameras rolling, let's do it. If not, just start over.
I also know, I know, like you said, you're working on a course right now. Are there any like specifications that you recommend, like how long each episode of the, like each module of the course more or less should be? Like, is there anything specific that you think about, or you think that's like really determined on like the depth of the content or something along those lines?
I think it depends on the content. However long it takes to arrive at your objective, your outcome for your learners, then that could be done in 5 minutes. It could be done in 10 minutes or 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It just really depends on whatever it is that learning objective is and how long it takes to explain it and to have everything covered. On this particular course, it was about how to actually get a home studio set up at your desk. So everything from the equipment that you need all the way to how to actually set it up. Like the actual setup video of me showing how to set it up was like 4 minutes long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's what I needed to show the steps. I'm like, hey, there's 10 steps. Step number 1, do this. And I showed how to do it. Step number 2, do that. So whatever is needed to effectively communicate whatever that learning objective is, it can be as long as it's needed. As long as the value is there and they're getting what they need, and just making sure too the curriculum is laid out in a specific way.
So I know like a lot of people have a lot of different thoughts on things like production value. Like for instance, like right now your setup looks gorgeous, and I'm sure that's something that's been forged out over time and experience and what you like in particular. What are your thoughts on like how people should think about production value, like the areas that they might consider if they're going to spend some money? What areas should they put money on? And do you think it really makes an impact on like how their content is received and how many people watch it and those kind of things?
I mean, since the whole pandemic, we're all now virtual superstars, in a sense. It's like, and even now, if you watch regular TV or watch interviews, celebrities, it's actually, you get a peek into their home or wherever they're at. And to me, that's really interesting. So I think that with that, there's a new expectation. If you get on or whatever, it's like if you get on there and your laptop is like angled really high and you're at the bottom of your screen and you see your whole ceiling fan and all of that, I think that really does have an effect on how you're going to be perceived, know? And I think more people are starting to understand that. So really, to me, the best things to invest in is like a digital mirrorless camera. They're coming out to be much cheaper than what you would spend like $1,000 and up for a DSLR. Like I just actually got a new camera myself, updated camera. I think I lost you. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm still here.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So I got
speaking of which,
I ended up getting another mirrorless camera because it was on sale. It was a used Sony mirrorless camera, and I spent like $400 to $500 on it, for a decent camera that can accomplish this exact same look. So if there is something to invest in, I definitely say invest in a really, upgraded camera that is not your built-in webcam. And that alone is going to change so much. From there, you just, you need the hookups to get it to your computer. But at that point, oh my gosh, like your Zoom communication is going to be off. It's going to be great. When people jump on Zoom on a group call or something like that, you're going to be the one that stands out. When you jump on a call with your clients, you're really going to impress them as well. They're going to be like, oh, wow, like this looks like you actually care about what you're doing, you know, or whatever. And it means way more. And then also too, with your backdrop, if you're able to really create an environment that's really cool to visit, whether you're in person or not, you really got something else going on there too, that it's very inviting, gives people a sneak peek into your home, how you work, how organized you are. You know what I mean? If you got like papers all around you, it's like, it's a little bit more challenging to do your business day to day if your environment is messy. So we get a whole lot of insight, right, with more visual. So really, I think it's, like I said, to invest in the video, in the actual camera itself, and maybe a small light. Really those things are going to make a tremendous difference. And you'll be able to actually do some more video content of your own that's really professional and that looks really good.
So you might argue that like the benefits get a little bit, like if you spend a little, the benefits can really be exponential. And by little, I mean like probably if even just a few $1,000s can go a long way. And
Yeah, and with my clients, I've been just because a lot of them don't want to spend. Some of them are, in a position with the pandemic where they're like, I know I need to do something, but I don't want to blow. I don't want to spend thousands of dollars on this setup. So I've been able to recommend some setups that are like, between 500 to $700 or so, depending on the look that they want. But getting the blurred look effect, having it to be something that works really well with your computer. You have a decent light, all those things really shouldn't run you over, in my opinion, what I have done even for myself, shouldn't run you more than $600, $700.
yeah, it's kind of strange because even just like a few years ago, like the quality that you can get out of a mirrorless camera is like mind blowing. Even
Yeah.
let's say even like the new iPhone 12, like from the video footage I've been seeing on it, like they've made some substantial upgrades and where like the photography alone is kind of starting to rival like what was almost exclusively like the DSL market could only make those kind of make those kind of things, and even they require a lot of post-production to get the kind of quality that something like the iPhone 12 can do now. So we are really in a time period where you can have essentially like a news network's like set of tools in your home for like only a few $1,000s at the most.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
And on the flip side, like the diminishing returns of spending like $10,000 on camera, or I guess like even like $6,000 on a camera are pretty substantial. Because what's the camera that you have right now?
The one I'm using right now is a Sony A7R2.
Yeah.
And this one I actually got in Thailand, but it's about $1,000, give or take, maybe 12, I think, in total with the lens. But that's that. But then I like I said, I recently came across a used Sony A6000 that I got for like $500. So I'm also going to incorporate that. Maybe I'll switch this one out if I want, just to kind of see what the quality difference is. Or I can set up a second camera and feed that into my computer, switch back and forth. Like, why not?
Yeah, I saw the other day somebody else teaches so he does video production, but he also teaches a college course on video. And so pandemic, you know what I mean? He's had to stream all his courses, and he even has a on like a, not a C-stand, but it's got one of those arms so you can like look directly down so you can show them like what he's doing the streaming thing at the same time. But if you were to ask me, like if I was going to look at your camera, because like you're streaming, and I know that camera can, I'm 99% sure that camera can output 4K, and the colors look great. So I'm saying, I mean, I'm just like, I doubt you would really be able to be able to tell the difference between that and like a red camera at this point, like looking on that.
I'm telling you. It's like I said, the technology is just mind blowing, and what's happening in these iPhones and these smartphones, it's just it's making it a little bit easier to do.
How do you think it will affect your business over the next like I don't even want to think about 10 years from now, but over even just like the next 3 years, like how do you think this is going to affect your business?
Like, what, this setup and this
well, how accessible the technology is in general, and how easy it is to get like great looking footage, especially now with all the streaming options.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, one of the really important initiatives for me and goals that I have for myself is really to jump on and be more of an educator and to get back to teaching. And I know that when it comes to teaching, you want to be the fun teacher. Nobody wants to be the boring teacher. So when it comes to those things, and as I start teaching entrepreneurs and other businesses about how to implement and utilize video to the fullest, I want my education quality to match, my professionalism and how I see video being done. So I can see definitely over, the coming years that the production quality is going to still be really great, but our ease and the speed, I think, is going to be the main component that really drives even more engagement. So, instead of like, think about from the moment that when it comes to content, you have an idea, and from that moment in time until it's actually released, how much time is that? I could see, like, if it takes, let's say, 4 hours or so to get it done, which is still pretty fast, but let's say it's 4 hours worth of time. If I'm able to get that down to an hour and really still even speed up, and to really compound the amount of content and education that I'm sharing, I think that I'll just be able to reach more people.
Yeah.
So I can see that that definitely being a result, and something that I want to strive for is how can I easily do it and to do it with speed. Hey, I got an idea. Let's go live right now. Boom, let's go.
Yeah.
Done. You know what I mean? And everything is set up. I don't have to go and call anybody. I don't have to do, it's just like, all right, let's open up this program. All right, we got our angle set up. I know what I'm going to say. Let's go live, or let's go ahead and record this, and it's done. That's sort of what I can see happening. And then the speed of that, like I said, just being just tripled, really.
What is the so what would you say the impact, like, how do you want to see people using this technology as a whole? Like, where do you think this is going with people in general? Do you think video is literally for everyone? Because I know originally this video was called like video first, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
how do you really see, how do you want people to use video in the beginning? Because like, one thing that I'm really curious about is I know that we have, there's so much content out there. Like, there's a ton, you know what I mean? Like, every day somebody's really releasing like billions and billions of terabytes of content. I don't know if it's billion terabytes, but a lot. And
Yeah,
if you, let's say you post a video on Instagram, right, or a photo or something on TikTok, like, you could spend a lot of time on that piece of content, or maybe not even that much time, but like, it has an immediate impact, and then it kind of just like is gone into the ether. So I guess I'm always trying to frame for myself, like, what kind of value should I put on an individual piece of content, and how should I look at content in general, and how should people look at the stuff that they're publishing on things like LinkedIn? I know this is a little bit of like a multi-part question, but I guess I'm always, I don't want to say struggling, but I'm always trying to like frame how I should view creating content, because it's like a living, breathing organism now, rather than an individual piece of property, which it was maybe like 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Does that make
sense?
Man,
It does. It does. I mean, because like what you brought up is video first. I mean, that's still a term that I'm playing around with and seeing if that's something that I really want to use. But the mindset and the thought behind video first is like, okay, whenever we as a company or as a brand are about to communicate something, we should think about how we can use video to do it first. How video can be incorporated first, because it is the highest engagement medium and the most powerful medium. And plus, from that video content, you can repurpose so many things. You can get a transcript from it for written, you can get audio from it, you can get stills from it, you can get snippets from it, from a long version into a short version. I mean, there's so much you can do with video. So my vision really is to see people just using video and doing it in a way that they enjoy. I think that's the key. Because otherwise it's like this burdensome process that people just hate, like, oh, I hate editing. I don't want to, but I think that the end goal is to, or what I hope people's end goal is to keep video as something that you can definitely strive for, that it becomes the first piece of the strategy that you use for any sort of communication. And secondly, that you find a way to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Because that is where you will find your contentment. You'll hopefully find your joy, because you're showing and you're demonstrating something that you really care about.
Yeah.
Who cares what somebody else says? You know what I mean? Who cares if enough people watch it? If they don't, all right, let's just switch it up. How can I present what I love to do in a different way? How can I just read? So that way you're still in a process of enjoying what you're doing. And I think that by doing that, you won't be as concerned about how many, all the views and all the back end of it. It's like, okay, well, the reward here is actually sharing what I love. And I think if the focus can be there, then all the other challenges that come up with when it comes to doing video will either be easier, or you'll see kind of a light that that you know, something that you can grab onto that'll make it work for you. But I think for right now, people really have a lot of expectations around video that I think are unrealistic sometimes. And then you know, in terms of the end result,
yeah, because I want to go back to that in a second, because that expectation thing is, especially now, because like we're in a place where, you know, like us as video producers, we can do so much, but there's still like some ridiculous asks I get sometimes, you know what I mean? Or like, but it's not like the client's fault for thinking that might be possible, right? Because like so much is possible now. But I want to come back to that in a second, just because the way you said that, like, what is it that you love about video? And I think one of the things that I'm not sure, because I'm still learning about how you work, but I like working on projects that are very different. You know, like I mean, by very different, I mean like I don't like working on the same style project every time. So it's kind of like, you know, like it's not like, you know, you work in a restaurant and I'm trying to like output like the same high quality food in the same way every time. Like I kind of like to work on like like we just like have a different menu every day. You know what I mean? And even with that, like having an organized best practice process is super important. You know what I mean? Like even if you have no idea what this video is going to be, when you start like working on pre-production, you still need a process. And I'm kind of in a place where I know I like working that way, and I'm trying to figure out how to fit a process. So even though this is going to be very different than the last project I worked on, I know there are a lot of things that I can predict, so I can leave room for those like unpredictable things. This was leading to a question. I can't remember what question I had. It was just, I just think I'm really interested in, I'm really interested because video can be so many different things, right? Like it can be used for so many different ways. It can be used to like just communicate ideas, because like I imagine, because you're consulting with a lot of clients, so a lot of people just want ways to expand their network and let people know what it is that they're doing, right? And then based on the amount of time they have and time and resources they have, they're going to be able to communicate that with a certain level of depth, right? Like you, like, because this is your business, you have probably more time and resources to put into the LinkedIn and YouTube and Instagram videos that you create on a regular basis, right? And you also have a lot more time, and you have a history, so you have a lot more experience to like kind of cultivate a certain image that other people may not, at least right now, have the time to do. So I guess the best question you could be like, how would you recommend somebody kind of like really figuring out where they are in the video space? You know what I mean? From like the kind of content that they like to create to what they should be okay with producing right now. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think that there's so much responsibility that lies on us as creatives to educate. Because think about it, if I'm able to teach my client how to be a good client, in the sense that they're aware of what, you know, what the expectations should be, how they can get involved in the creative process, like by the time, like if I'm able to educate them ahead of time on how to structure their video, how to know what video to do next, like I think that that's really important. And that's really the driving factor behind my first online school, which I call it the Video Playbook. And that's essentially for entrepreneurs, so they know exactly what play to run to make the next play or to win. You know what I mean? It's about how can we educate them to know really how to think about it. And then once they can think about it, they know how to best communicate to creatives. And the more likely they're going to be happy with the end result. Everybody's on the same page. There's no assumptions being made. So that's an initiative of mine right now, is just to teach and to educate. And what I found is that people, or most of my clients now, when they approach me about doing a video project, they've already done half of the work that usually I had to do or guide them through. Now they can do that through a video course. And when they come to me, they're sending me footage, or they're sending me, a project that is in alignment with my process and what's going to be the easiest for both of us to get this done. So I think it's just it's education has to fill that gap. I mean, so many people are thinking like, oh, we need to do a video ad. It's like, no, not really. It looks like based on your customer journey and what's happening in your business, you just need to get some more testimonials so you can convert higher.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you should spend your focus. Let's fill that gap first, and then identify wherever else we need to apply video and really bump up video and invest video. Because it's easy to think, oh, I just need to do more content. You do, but where does that lead? You know, how all the pieces fit together is really important. And then you're able to determine, where does my business most need video right now? For some people, because they're doing so well, they probably don't even need a whole lot of front-facing video right now. That's not their problem. Their problem might be on the back end, and the fact that their receptionist has to repeat the same stuff all the time to a new client. You need to look into your onboarding process and how you can make that fun and exciting and prep people before they get there. That's time saving and cost saving. Like, that's a huge moneymaker right then and of itself that people overlook, I think, when it comes to video. It's like, look at your entire business. Where is it most needed right now? And I think from there, they communicate it. They know a little bit, you know, just the basics about production and what it takes to be successful. Train them on that. Then when they're ready to come to you, they're using your template. They're using your script format. They're using your whatever. And now, you know, everything is just more clear at that point. So I think education is really key. And I think it's a huge responsibility of creatives to start to educate more.
How would you recommend creatives start doing that? You know, like, what's a good place to start? Like, if you're sitting down with a client, where should you start with the client?
I would ask them what their number one question is. What is it that they want to know about when it comes to video? How could this be easier? What are they overlooking? What are they not seeing? What are their challenges? That's really been a huge part of even how I've been building this. I did this course because so many people were asking me, you know, or whatever. So really figure out what they're asking about and find a way to share it with them. Maybe not jump on a full course right away, but maybe do like a webinar or do something to kind of break down or whatever it is and get their feedback, see if that's helpful, and then start to build it out as, you know, yourself.
What were those questions?
I think for creatives too.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Say it again.
No, I was going to say, what were those questions that you initially got from when people were expressing interest in education from you?
Yeah, the first question was like, well, how can I get a blurred background look? I like your look. Like, it initially came from people just seeing my look and asking a whole bunch of questions about that. The other questions that started to come up were around, well, how can I, you know, what's the best way to edit my footage? What do I say on camera? What I do with my hands? like all kinds of questions. But I made an intention to ask, you know, like, what are you thinking about? What are your questions? And that's some of the ones that came up. As well as like, well, how can I grow my business with video? How do I add video to my website? I mean, it's the questions are everywhere. They're all kind of all over the place. So a lot of different ones.
Yeah. Because I've received some questions. No, I've received periodically, I will get inquiries to do some consulting on helping people produce internal videos on themselves. And typically it's something that I turn down, those kind of projects in particular, because when I get to ask those questions, I realize that weirdly, I don't know the answers to a lot of the questions that they're asking. And I'm not saying like, what's the blur in the background, but like, I never really thought about like much about like how to do something along the lines of streaming video, as far as like how do you build the aesthetic for streaming video. I never really gave too much thought about it until COVID happened. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm usually like in a location shooting a particular project for a particular thing, mostly ads, sometimes internal video, you know what I mean? And maybe some branded content. But in general, like it's not something I really gave much thought to until now. So now I'm like, it's weird. I spend so many hours with video. And as you can see through this performance, I'm still figuring it out. Like for some reason, my camera just shut off in the middle of shooting. I have no idea why that. It's plugged in, the HDMI cable's working, but that just shut off. Who knew? I'm still working on getting like, I light scenes all the time. I'm still figuring out how to not get this area exposed in my window right here without having to take 10 lights. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was something I found when I started getting asked those questions. It's surprisingly, it sounds like, it feels like you make it seem really easy. And I'm sure like once you get the process down, it's like mind, you don't really have to put much thought into it. But at the moment, like there are a bunch of gaps even in my head where I'm like, how do you do that? You know what I mean? And is this some area where you kind of just, how long have you been streaming in the kind of context that you're doing now? Or maybe not even streaming, but producing videos from your personal space like this?
Yeah, it started around when the pandemic happened, like March, April.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So
and I started playing with different setups and trying to, get my backdrop together. Like there was, I'd ordered this, it was like a paper backdrop that I put on the wall at my old house.
Yeah.
And it was like a wood, looked like a 3D wood kind of thing, but it was just paper. And I was using that, and I had like kind of like some lights and stuff that I was playing around with. So that's when I actually started just trying to see how I could do this. And I just started giving more thought to it because I don't know, something about it. I knew that there was going to be something that would change about video because we couldn't physically be together. So how to bring that experience into Zoom conversations, which was happening a lot. Other presentations that I was doing. Because even like around May or so is when I started doing a little teen class for teenagers around video production. And I knew I wanted it to be a good representation, for video with this. And I knew that I could. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So that's when it started for me. It was definitely the pandemic. And it really, like you said, inspired ideas around, well, the aesthetic of video, since this is how we have to communicate,
And I imagine like the platforms that we're using now also really affect like the direction that video is going, and how people think about it too, and the overall aesthetic of it. Because for instance, like we have the social, like typical social media platforms, which all have like live pieces to it now. We have TikTok, but we also have things like Twitch, which is really popular for streaming. And streaming has, I'm going to say, just over the last like 4 to 5 years, like just like taken off. And even people who are like millennials and older are starting to do a lot more streaming work in general. So has that, like, do you think that affects the way, I mean, of course it does, but how do you think that affects the way people think about what they need as far as video and what's important? I guess.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that comes to mind is the fact that when it comes to streaming and recording, there's a lot that's happening where people are being interviewed. Podcasts are a really popular medium right now, and if you're asked to be on a podcast or you have your own podcast, like I could see definitely how this is going to impact that, over time. Because everything is just going to be that much more visual, of course. And I think that the streaming aspect of what you're discussing, like, I think it's just the future. Think about speed. Like back when the internet first came, think about how long it took for a page to load, or for AOL to kick in. It's like, there's just this time gap that just goes smaller. And video, I think, is no different. And streaming, I think, makes it to where like there's literally no time between producing it, creating it, and when someone's actually engaging with it. I think that it's just a representation of how things have just sort of sped up that time that it takes to communicate and to share. And these video streaming capabilities have made it really, again, going back to the editing part, that much easier, because a lot of these live streaming platforms have the ability to bring in video content. So like how we do in the podcast, Jeff brings in the video part that comes in. This is all in the live streaming platform. So if I can think from creating content, and what it takes to do that in the process, then why not just open up a live streaming platform, add in my videos, add in my things that I want to do. But of course, you have to think about it ahead of time. but you bring those things in while you're recording, and once you're done, you either have that recording, or if you went live, it's already on the internet.
Yeah, yeah. So if you were like, do you think it's possible if we were to workshop it, like, is there something that we should be thinking about when we're creating these podcasts that might make our ability to like post it for somebody to watch later a little bit better? You know what I mean? Like, is there any like thoughts that you have on stuff like that?
Yeah, I do. I think that when it comes to podcasts and any sort of long form content,
Mhm.
you really want to consider the fact that, especially if you're looking to attract an audience and get more listeners, I think that more has to be done outside of just assuming that somebody's going to watch a whole hour
Yeah,
and they've just met you,
yeah,
right? So I think that on the marketing and distribution side, it's really helpful to cut out smaller parts of that longer segment, share that on all the social media platforms that hopefully gauge interest. Hopefully you're talking about something that those people want to know about. And as a result of them saying the short thing, then at the end, they're directed to say, hey, if you want to listen to the whole thing, go to our YouTube or go to our page where you can watch it in its entirety.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
think that on the distribution side, I think that's where we have to kind of really shift and think a little bit more. To me, that's where post-production and just like, that's going to have to come into play, because somebody's going to have to essentially cut those things up,
yeah,
right?
yeah. You're gonna need some labor there. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So like, if that was the case, then and you're obviously not like a huge podcaster, then you're going to want to introduce people to you, and the best way to introduce people to you is in those smaller form clips, and that can get more engagement. And then once they kind of like get familiar, maybe build like a small parasocial relationship with you, and then they're more likely to like sit there, put you on the background, and listen to you for an hour. Especially
Exactly.
Gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. So in general, if you could make any kind of video content for the rest of your life, what kind of work would you like to do? Like if you could do like what does your dream video production look like?
Man. I think it's definitely in alignment with like what we call new or emerging media that's really consumed on the internet. So I definitely want to focus more there. I could see definitely having a network of different ongoing episodic series that I produce. And they're all, focused in some way, shape, or form on the things that I value, and that my partners involved in those projects value as well. And really just having fun with those topics. I could really see that. It's kind of it's more personal. It's like what you want to see in the world and what you want to create in the world. It's like that's where it kind of stems from. So I'm interested in really episodic content, that is co-branded and really brings a message that addresses a lot of and brings attention to a lot of needs, I think, that we have in our country, in our world. So I'll share one of them, which
Yeah.
in 2021 will start to grow some legs. But that one's called A Date with Daddy. And the concept with that is showcasing and featuring dads and daughters going on dates to places, like nice little restaurants. And like, I'm thinking about the mom and pop shops and some of these restaurants that could really use a little bit more attention and awareness about them. Either from small shops and local shops to maybe even something bigger down the road, maybe like a actual restaurant chain that would want to be a part of this, and featuring all the locations to be the place where we can go and feature dads and daughters and their relationships, and they're all unique. So that's really, yeah, and it really hits home for me because, and again, it all has to address something. For me, it's addressing the need for fatherhood and how important that is. I'm really fortunate to have a father who's been super active in my life and, been such a support for me. And but I have a lot of friends, a lot of family members who just don't have that. And I can see even firsthand in my life, some of the people that I've been really close to and involved with that just really struggle from their father just not being there, and a lot of times it just boils down to the fact that, they don't feel needed. There's so much going on inside of them that prevents them from just showing up. There's this expectation that you have to have all this money and be the richest dude in the world to be a good dad. And I think that that's bullcrap. And I really wished and hope that more dads would see that, and we can see more fathers being active in the lives of their daughters and of their kids. So that's something that is ongoing. It's episodic. It can go really, really deep and be a lot of fun. So that's one concept. Again, it's nothing that a client hired me to do. This is something that is an idea that comes from my heart that I want to put out there. So there's several things like that, production wise, that I want to do. And it seems like it's leaning towards really good episodic content that could be consumed on the internet, if you will. So yeah,
that sounds really. I can't wait for the first episode. I can already kind of visualize the texture of it. So if you wanted to share something with the audience, particularly is there a book or a concept you're obsessed with right now, or even a movie or anything? What's something that you're really into right now?
Man, something I'm really into. Well, I recently just purchased a whole bunch of books around producing for much larger projects. So I'm kind of in a learning mode right now. So I'm reading and learning from TV producers and seeing ways that I can incorporate how that's done and what have you, to do things like A Date with Daddy and a number of other projects that I want to be a part of and to spearhead. So that's what I'm really into right now. It's funny. Usually I pop on Netflix at night and use that to chill out. But I've recently been just really motivated to read these books and to really educate myself on what it takes to be a successful producer and to really make a difference with that. So, because producing is very weird. It's it's both creative and it's very technical and organization and stuff like that. So it covers a lot for me. I'm kind of half and half. I mean, I have a degree in math, which is really weird and random, but and then I do all this creative stuff. So it's it's a perfect balance for me, and getting the opportunity to work with people and oversee something really positive and meaningful.
Yeah. I feel the producer role really sometimes it intersects with a lot of other different roles in the production.
It does. It does. I mean, the business side, the marketing side, the where's the money coming, all of that. So I'm just different. I'm usually hired to do it, but if I want to do it myself, what's the process involved? So that's where I'm really into right now, is learning that stuff.
Yeah. Well, thanks for talking with me today. And we missed you last week, and hopefully next week will work the way I wanted to. And
you did great, Tim.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to a lot more chats about video and creativity with you in the next couple of weeks.
I love it. Let's do it.
Awesome. I'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, guys.